The
with
attempted assassination, is
yes,
that
with
the current
Trump.
event you want to go to first?
I think let's start there.
Yeah, it's a horrible thing.
It is a horrible thing.
Obviously, any kind of political violence and obviously,
Violence in general.
yes, I mean, absolutely. But I think when we've lost our civilness as a nation in some regard, and
Yes.
there's probably a lot of cause and effect and reason and all this. But anytime you get to the point of violence and things of that nature, I think that's a really bad indicator of when we have to go to that level.
Agreed.
But
Yes.
yeah, and the thing is it's very it just you know I think probably the bigger part of this question is how has politics gained such a deep hold and framework in our culture and it's like every 4 years somebody gets elected, no duh, and
Right.
and I'm sure there've been better and worse presidents and vice, all that sort of stuff, and
Right.
yet I think we just seems like, man, now it's just such a different world we're living in terms of the intensity around these
Right.
elections. It's like every election is the most important ever,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and there are important elections, no doubt. I mean, I'm
Right.
not passive in that regard, but
No.
um,
I think honestly, I was pretty discouraged after watching I didn't even watch all of it, but part of the debate,
yeah,
just the caustic nature of both candidates toward each other.
yeah, it's like I feel like
I feel like it used to be like they used to
there was a level of
have
dignity that you
yeah,
felt like was
dignity
maintained.
class.
And again, people are going to have, well, it's their fault. No, it's their, and then we're right back at the same,
Right.
mudslinging argument back and forth.
Right.
And there used to be a day where even though you would disagree, you had some respect for individuals and
And
positions and,
and it's
people.
okay for differing differing
I think that's what we've lost in
opinions.
all of this is like the
Right.
ability to disagree civilly, to the
Correct.
ability to disagree without dismissing you,
Hmm.
without defaming you, without, trying to go
Right.
with as many D words as I can, but like for the street people dogging you, you know what I mean?
There
Like,
you go.
there you go. I got them all.
Could you count those in
But,
the stream?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. But it used to be, I think you could disagree and hold different opinions and ideals
uh-huh.
and yet maintain some level of civility. And again, I think some would
Right.
say, from I kind of go back to what I said, Sunday in our message. We were talking about, have a defense, always be ready to give a defense for the hope that you have. And Peter talks about to the church.
Uh-huh.
And then he says, do it with basically this sense of reverence and awe, this sense of honor, and it's
Right.
like being able to make your defense in a clear, articulate way and do it respectfully, and then allow
Yes.
people to decide. I think the thing I've struggled with is just all of this. It has all just become so personal.
Hmm.
Attacks of not even attacks of what someone's done, just the person, just the straight
Right.
up person
Right.
of it all. And that's hard, I think, to watch from my perspective because I just
Right.
think like, is this really what it's about?
Right.
And believe me, there's plenty to attack if you on both sides of this thing.
Yes.
Like if you want to
Yes.
go down this road, and so the question kind of becomes, and for years, I think my position is still the same as far as like what does a believer do in these moments? Like because I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of people like look at these two candidates and just go, yeah, none of the above. You know what
Right.
I mean? And
Right.
and I've always said, and I always encourage people to vote, from a biblical worldview, that which most aligns with a biblical worldview,
Hmm.
that which is going to further, I would say, righteous, behavior. And
Hmm.
you're going to find faltering on both sides of it, probably
Absolutely.
more in some camps than others, for sure.
Right.
But I just think you used to be able to say things like it comes down to like the family, the sanctity of life, comes down to the position of Israel, comes down to and all of this has just been so absolutely muddled over the last couple of years
Hmm.
and again our world is a fairly broken place,
Right.
but I still think that as believers, we're not called to debate this out with everybody, but we're also not called to be passive in it.
Right.
I think we're supposed to steward our
Hmm.
influence,
Be
including a vote.
responsible
Yeah,
with our vote.
like be a
Yes.
good citizen, participate. If you're gonna, Bible tells you to pay your taxes, render
Yes.
that which belongs to Caesar, give to Caesar. then if you got to pay your taxes, you need to be stewarding who it is you're voting for at the same
Mhm.
time. And I
Mhm.
think I think some Christians want to become very militant. Some
Mhm.
want to just throw up their hands,
Mhm.
and some just want to remain quiet and pray for the election to pass. But here's what I would say to me is one of the most important things to remember. Um, that Wednesday morning that we wake up after the election, you
Mhm.
know, Jesus is still going to be Lord. The kingdom is still in effect.
Yes.
And while we do everything we can leading up that point to vote with our, I say I don't even say values anymore because I think
Right.
values have become so the absence of moral truth, moral relativism, the absence of absolutes.
Mhm.
Even though that in of itself is to have the absence to say there is no absolute is an absolute statement. So
Correct.
by virtue of saying that, you're actually betraying your own stance and saying
Uh-huh.
there are no absolutes.
Uh-huh.
And so to say there's no absolute truth, there is no absolute, everything is sort of squishy and gray. Just by virtue of saying that, you're contradicting yourself because to say
Right.
that is saying there's an absolute. And so
Yes.
we all understand that there are those things. And I think at the end of the day, I think the day after we've got to get up and continue to live our lives in such a way that honors God and continues to draw people to
Mhm.
Jesus and steward well the country that we live in, wherever that might be. I
Mhm.
think it's true of any country. And
Mhm.